we'll go to a 32 team single elimination bracket in which the top two teams will find themselves playing their finals at DreamHack Austin. So that's pretty exciting. We're gonna kick this half off with Group 4, Iowa versus Robert Morris. And we've got some pretty good players on both of these teams here tonight. I'm definitely excited to see what they bring to the table regarding the decks they play. We would also like to thank our sponsors, Twitch and Azus ROG. We will mention them throughout the broadcast, but we are happy that they sponsor us. That way we can keep this going. Of course, this is CSL Hearthstone Spring, and we are about to jump into the first game between Cole MTG and Zucchini.
All right. So let's let these players know that we're ready to start it up.
All right, the players should be getting in game momentarily, and then we'll be able to check it out. I'm guessing we're gonna see a lot of Paladin, maybe some Freeze Mage. The meta is still about those kinds of decks, I think. Although it's still really diverse, there could be a lot of different things that show up tonight. It looks like the players are in game now.
All right. Yeah, definitely expecting to see a lot of Secret Paladin, Aggro Shaman, Druid. The main like forces that we've seen being very dominant in the meta this past season. We're actually going to see a Warrior opening, and a card we actually don't see that often, Arc Thief for Fom.
Yeah, that card is awesome. I mean, I like the card, but it is certainly very slow. So this has to be a Control Warrior deck, I think. We see the Grommash, we see the Frothing Berserker. I mean, it could end up being Patron, but with a card like Rafam, I think it definitely leans more towards the control side. Whereas on Zucchini's side of the table, this definitely seems like a Zoo Warlock, as the Flame Imp, Nerubian Egg, Doomguard, those cards are definitely trademarks in that deck. I think this matchup tends to favor the Zoo deck because they can pressure a lot early. If Warrior doesn't have a Fire Gorax to deal with some of the pressure at the start of the game, then they can just fall behind very quickly, take a lot of damage, and not be able to recover the tempo they lose. So we see Zucchini started off with a Flame Imp, of course. Implosion drawn off the top. That might come in handy later, although it's not the best card for this matchup. Ooh. Second Doomguard, that is not what you want to see.
Alright, it's gonna be pretty awkward for Zucchini here. He does have the Flame Imp to start off with, though, and we don't see a War Axe from R1, so it looks like he's just gonna slam it here.
Yeah, that seems like a fine play. Just get something off the board. That's all you can do. Mal'Ganis, also something that Zucchini doesn't want to see. Skips out on a turn 3 play. All he can do is tap.
Yeah, this is definitely the kind of opening you don't like seeing from Demon Zoo. You have 3 cards in your hand that are basically unplayable. Luckily, he does have the Void Caller to help him fix his hand a little bit, but he's gonna have to pray that the Imp Gang boss doesn't come out instead of one of the other 3 that he wants to see.
Yeah. Alright, so we do see, Zucchini play his egg. His egg gets taken out. Void Caller in play, of course. Mal'Ganis could come out of that, or Doomguard. That would certainly make things a little nicer. Cole took out the egg with his Frothing Berserker and Death Spite, which seems like a fine trade. You deal with things immediately. A Doomguard gets slammed into play from the Void Caller, hits Cole in the face for 5. He is under a lot of pressure right now. Just doesn't really have many ways to deal with these things. I mean, there's no Execute in his hand. It looks like it actually is a Patron deck that has Refam in it.
Yeah, definitely a really interesting tech choice from R1's side. Unfortunately, he doesn't have an Execute in hand, so he doesn't have a way to clear up this Doomguard right now. He can try to take out the Knife Juggler if he wants to decide to use an Inner Rage to clear it off.
Right. So we see Inner Rage come down onto the Grim Patron that Cole has played. I mean, if there's anything that can get him back into this game, it's a bunch of Grim Patrons. He's gonna need some life gain along with that, I think. We do see a favorable juggle. Actually, I guess that could have gone either way. That Grim Patron ends up dying regardless. But now 4 patrons in play. Could make another. Decides to kill off the Knife Juggler. I definitely like that decision, seeing as he's so low already. And he just needs to survive.
Right. So again, Zucchini's hand is still really awkward now. He can't play the Doomguard unless he wants to risk losing the Mal'Ganis in his hand. Implosion is also really awkward here when you have when the other player has patrons on the board, right? You don't really want to be giving them more patrons at this point.
Yeah. I mean, he could hit one of the ones with 2 health, but then, yeah, like you're saying, you got these 1/1 imps in play, and they don't line up very well against patrons. They'll just continue to multiply, so.
Right. So it's typically when patron is able to get out the turn 5 or turn 6, like board flood of patrons against Zoo. Zoo has a really hard time getting the board back. I'd say most of the time from this point you have to go for Faces the Place plan.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you have cards like Power Overwhelming or other burst damage besides your Doom Guards. I mean, those cards can definitely help a lot. Holds on to the other Doom Guard, gets a Corruption off the Dark Peddler, doesn't play it. I mean, it doesn't really accomplish that much, so I can understand that, but I wonder if Zucchini is starting to get concerned about his opponent killing him soon here. I mean, there's 12 damage represented on the board. Patron, of course, no more Warstalk Commander these days, but there are still some ways it can burst out some damage. Like if you had a Death Spite and a Cruel Taskmaster, that could be, you know, an extra 6 damage this turn. So he's definitely getting closer to that point, but...
Right. Unfortunately for R1, he still doesn't have an execute for the Doomguard, so he's gonna have to leave it on the board. He can defend himself with Belcher, but if Zucchini managed to find an Owl, then R1 might be dead if he doesn't coin out the Armor Out as well.
Yeah, that would be devastating. Iron Beak Owl, definitely one of the most annoying cards to see when you're sitting comfortably behind a Sludge Belcher. And you think you're safe, but that Owl.
Right, so he's gonna go for the coin armor up here. I really like that. Plays around Owl Doomguard, right?
Yeah, I like it too. You need to gain health as soon as possible. Even though you have that Rafam in your hand, like you're not really gonna have time to play that at this point. By the time like that rolls around, you're just gonna be so low that it won't even be worth it.
Right.
Zucchini has some interesting decisions to make here. That Corruption was not very good off the Dark Peddler, but I'll just say he didn't have very many options there, so it kind of made sense. The other cards weren't that great. I forget what they were exactly, but Implosion on the Ooze and Imp Gang boss, so lots of imps, lots of demons. But once again, Cole MTG has 12 damage on the board. No weapon, no Cruel Taskmaster drawn. We know that both Inner Rages have been used, but still, Zucchini must have been scared of dying here. I'm sure he's at least a little bit relieved to still live another turn.
Alright. Unfortunately for R1, he hasn't seen any sort of cycle in his deck. He hasn't had a chance to play the Acolyte, but he also hasn't found any cycle cards of his own. He did have to use a Slam early on without draw value. So, luckily for him, though, he has been lucky enough to pick up 2 taunts. We have the Belcher followed up by the Monkey here, which is going to be pretty annoying for Zucchini to get through.
Yeah, this might just seal the deal. I mean, all these patrons sitting in play now, representing a lot of damage. Zucchini's going to need a really strong draw. Nothing less than Twisting Nether, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, Knife Juggler, I don't think that's going to do it here. Might as well tap and see what you get. I mean, who knows? Yeah, it looks like that's going to be Iowa taking the first game. I guess we'll just go through the motions here. He's going to Implosion the Fierce Monkey, and the Knives are going to hit patrons and stuff. We're gonna, oh, he killed a patron. Very nice. The well played comes out from Zucchini, and we're gonna be moving on to game 2. So now, Iowa has used their warrior, and RMU has used their Warlock, so those classes cannot be played by their respective schools. And we'll see what the next two players bring to the table. They've still got a lot of options, 8 other classes to choose from.
Right.
I mean, like I was saying earlier, I'm definitely expecting to see some Paladin, maybe some Mage. Freeze Mage is pretty popular these days. Definitely Druid. Druid is certainly at the top when it comes to the metagame decks right now, or close to the top.
Right.
It's arguable.
Definitely be surprised if we didn't see either Druid or Sacred Paladin, which are probably considered to be the 2 best deck in the meta right now.
Yep, I agree. We'll be getting these players ready to go in just a couple of moments here. We'll get this next game started. Alright, so once again, the Warrior is down for Iowa, and the Warlock is down for RMU.
Right.
I think we might see 2 Druids here. I got a feeling, because Druid is a pretty good blind pick class. Like it can beat anything. So.
Right. Definitely the safe choice. If you're not sure what you're going up against, it has a decent chance against both aggro and control. Pretty safe choice all around.
Right. Okay, we're going to have Rhythmus versus Mogatu. And the classes are Paladin versus Mage. Alright, so no Druids. Maybe I was a little bit off, just a little bit, but hey, maybe next game we'll have Druid versus Druid. We'll see. But it does look like a Freeze Mage from Mogatu.
Right. And from Rhythmus' side, it is indeed the Secret Paladin.
Hey, he might be mid-range Paladin with a Noble Sacrifice in there, right?
He could be. He
You
could be.
could throw some people off, just toss a secret in. Never know.
You never know. There's actually been new sort of aggro paladin running around. It actually uses Nerubian Exit It. And I actually do think it runs Avenge, but it isn't Secret Paladin.
Alright, fair enough. Looks like Rhythmus was just deciding on his mulligan there. Gets a pretty solid hand back. I mean, it would be nice to have a 1-drop. Okay, that's actually decent. Redemption can get some decent value with those 2 drops.
Right.
The classic Well Met being thrown out. Mogatu does not respond. There's nothing to say to that. Nothing to say to this Paladin player. As a Freeze Mage, I'm sure Mogatu is an elegant player. He's sitting down right now with a cup of tea in his right hand or something, just ready to control the board, stall out the game, and then finish Rhythmus off with a lot of burst damage towards the end.
Right. So typically, this matchup is considered really favored for the Freeze Mage because they can just keep stalling the threats from the Paladin. And Paladin, without things like Equality, and a lot of them not even running Consecration these days, it's really hard for them to clear off, let's say, a Doomguard when their board is frozen.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I definitely think this matchup favors the Freeze Mage. Sometimes Paladin can have a lot of early aggression and get the Freeze Mage down low early on and pop an Ice Block or something, but that doesn't happen too often unless the Freeze Mage draws really bad. We'll see how this game plays out. Maybe some key silences will come into play here. That definitely helps against cards like Doomsayer. So we'll see what Rhythmus has in store within the Secret Paladin deck. Opts to play the Haunted Creeper turn 3. Definitely a solid start for him. Mogatu has a reasonable amount of cycle cards in his hand. He can keep things rolling and hopefully find some ways to stall, like Frost Nova. He's already got a Doomsayer. He would like the Frost Nova to finish out that combo.
Right. So for Rhythmus here, doesn't have a great play in my opinion. His best bet is probably to try to kings one of his minions and just be aggressive. So you probably want to be kingsing the spider at this point. Actually, that's not true because the freeze mage is gonna want to clear the creeper, right? Because they want to take care of the 1/1s as well. So maybe it's more relevant to put the buff on the mini bot instead.
But then again, he does have the redemption in play.
Right.
So yeah, I like buffing the haunted creeper here.
All right.
Because gets that back, gets those extra 1/1s to go along with the first set of them. It's just gonna be spiders everywhere for him.
All right. So both of these targets are pretty good redemption targets right now.
Yeah, they both have that resiliency when they come back to life. Mogati's got some interesting choices here. Let's see, he's got 9 cards in hand, so he could play 2 cycle cards and get away with it, still get to 10 cards next turn. But maybe he will decide to fireball, maybe he'll decide to freeze these 2. I'm sure he's gonna feel a little bit annoyed that this is a redemption, but I guess a redemption here is better than seeing an avenge. An avenge would put more immediate damage on the board.
All right.
So, not the worst, not the best.
So Rhythmus picks up a shredder off the top. Followed up by an avenge. Whoa, this is kind of an awkward glitch in spectator mode here. The shredder has actually disappeared from Rhythmus' side of the board.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. The shredder knows it's against a freeze mage. He doesn't want to get hit by the AoE, so he just decided not to go into play.
All right.
I mean, I see it on my screen, but
So it looks like Mogati's gonna go for the Cone of Cold here. It is a little bit awkward for him. So he is gonna actually decide to freeze only the spectral spiders because he wants to avoid popping the second creeper for now.
Yeah, and this turns out even more awkward because this other one just got buffed. I'm sure he would have been reasonably happy to just ping that at some point, and then that helps to simplify the board and stuff, because that's all you really want to do throughout the game as freeze mage. You want to keep simplifying the board until you clear it with either a Doomsayer Frost Nova combo or a Flame Strike or a Blizzard, something like that, and then you finally get to this place where you can just breathe. You know, like early game it's intense, you're trying to deal with all the threats and stuff, but once you make it to late game, freeze mage can just take a deep breath and take a look at the board and see that it's empty and just smile, you know?
Right.
It's a good feeling to make it that far as a freeze mage, but doesn't always happen. But with the mysterious challengers drawn now for Rhythmus, this is going to be a lot of secrets getting put into play.
Right. Rhythmus getting those back-to-back mysterious challengers. So Mogatu, I was just about to say Mogatu doesn't have a freeze for this board, but he just picks up the Frost Nova off the top. So I'm thinking we're probably going to be seeing the Frost Nova Doomsayer come out this turn.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? If Rhythmus has an owl, then that would be really bad for Mogatu. I mean, we know he doesn't have it, but that's always something you got to consider as the freeze mage player. It's just like, man, please don't have an owl here, because
right.
He's sad. All right, so what does Rhythmus draw? I think usually they do play one owl these days. Some people who really want to keep things silenced play 2 owls, but
right. So this turn is actually really awkward for Rhythmus as well because he can't actually play a second challenger, right?
Yeah.
So we're thinking, oh, back-to-back challengers is usually something you do like seeing, but in this case, Rhythmus also has no way to clear this Doomsayer, so his whole board is going to get cleared right now. He is going to be left with the Spectral Spiders, but again, not a very strong board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1/4 Wormrest Agent. It's alright. It's an okay 2-drop. It gives him some board. Ooh, another Doomsayer. That actually seems like a fine play here, since Rhythmus, it's going to be unlikely he'll find enough damage to deal with it. Now, a Blessing of Kings or a True Silver Champion, actually, or wait, if Mogatu kills a 1/1 spider, then or actually he can't do that because he can't ping and play the Doomsayer. So either way, if Rhythmus draws a 4 damage card this next turn, he'll be able to deal with the Doomsayer. So that's something Mogatu has got to be considering here. He's going back and forth on whether or not he wants to play this. I definitely like playing it. Even if your opponent does have the 4 damage card, it's still just a way for you to gain like 7 life, maybe a weapon charge,
Right.
something like that. So,
Right.
I mean, best case scenario, he doesn't. And right now, yeah, Rhythmus doesn't. This is going to be another Doomsayer that blows up the board.
Right. Again, one of the shortcomings of Secret Paladin, it's like the inability to clear these big minions. It's like when, even right now, like not even needing a freeze, Rhythmus isn't able to clear this Doomsayer.
Yeah.
It stops him from developing his own board as well for another turn.
Yeah, and I mean, Mogatu has got pretty much everything he wants right now. An Ice Block would be nice, but this Mad Scientist could pull one out of the deck. He's got Alexstrasza to set things up to finish. Maybe another freeze would be nice to go along with his hand, just in case things start to go off track a little bit, but we'll see. Alright, Rhythmus putting out all the damage that he can, making a 1/1, just in case Doomsayer bugs out or something, and then he gets to keep his board, but it does indeed kill everything. Acolyte of Pain now getting put into play for Mogatu. Seems like a great time to do that. Just throw it on the board, get a couple draws out of it. Even if Rhythmus does have a weapon to deal with it, it's whatever because that damage won't be going on your face. You'll be drawing a card.
Right.
It's all good.
And Rhythmus actually has now drawn all 4 of his giants. He's drawn both challengers, and he also has a Boom and Tyrion to follow up with that. But unfortunately, Mogatu is sitting at a healthy life total, and he also has an Ice Block and a Barrier. So this is going to be really hard for Rhythmus to get through. Despite him having all these powerful minions in his hand, he hasn't been able to get anything to stick.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the big minions are nice to have, but then again, Freeze Mage is very likely to have an answer at this point, so... Emperor Tharacyn, that's an okay setup card. I think, like I was saying, you could use another freeze or AoE. Second Fireball drawn. One was used earlier to kill off a large Haunted Creeper. But Archmage Antonidas is in hand for Mogatu. He can make some more Fireballs later on if he wants. Alexstrasza seems pretty aggressive. He doesn't quite have the damage to follow it up with to finish off Rhythmus. It is one way to kind of deal with Dr. Boom, assuming the Boom bots don't, destroy everything.
Right.
We'll see what happens there. Ooh, Blessing of Kings. I think that's actually a pretty good draw right about now.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a really good draw. So he's not going to have to worry about the Alexstrasza. Because Mysterious Challenger, if he decides to go for Mysterious Challenger and Kings, it's going to bring up a Noble Sack, right? So that Alexstrasza isn't going to be able to hit him. It looks like he's thinking about playing Tyrion instead, though. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrion is solid. You get that weapon in play, hopefully, at some point. A 5/3 weapon does a lot of damage over time, but is that going to be enough before you're just dead to the Freeze Mage burn? I mean, I like Rhythmus's play here, just getting the taunt out, putting as much damage on face as possible. Hopefully you pop the block next turn, and then you could be alright after that.
Right. So Mogatu picks up a Frostbolt, still not enough damage. It looks like he might be just going for the plan of starting the burn this turn.
Yeah, is that lethal actually?
Oh, it is actually. It's 6.
Never mind. Yeah, spell damage.
Right. He has the Thanos.
Good stuff. Alright, so just like we thought, the Freeze Mage does take the win against the Paladin. That is of course, a pretty bad matchup for the Paladin there, so...
Looks like my side is glitching again on spectator mode, but indeed, the Freeze Mage did have enough damage in hand, so Mogatu does take that win. Alright.
So I believe that's going to tie up the series now, 1-1. Because Iowa won with the Patron Warrior deck, and RMU has now taken a win with Mage. So we'll see what's in store now. Iowa cannot use Warrior or Paladin, and RMU cannot use Warlock or Mage. Come on, let's see the Druids. I mean, it's got to happen at some point, right? I mean, I know we're only 1-1 at this point in the series, but the Druids need to show up soon. Like we can't have a series without both teams playing Druid, right?
Right. We have to have the Druid skill mirror at some point of every match.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just who's better at drawing wild growth. Like it's one of the timeless ways to test skill in Hearthstone.
Right.
So next up we have Phenomenon versus Agent Q52. The players are getting ready to get in the game here. They're just deciding on their decks.
Right.
They are going to play.
So again, in this format, when a team loses with a class, they are not allowed to queue that class again. So it's actually regardless of whether, or when a team has played a class, they're not allowed to queue it again.
Right.
Regardless of whether they win or not, once a class has been played, the team must choose a different class.
Yep. That way we get a lot of variety going. Each player plays something different. You know, they bring their own spice to the dish here. And yeah, it seems like the players are in game. We will get there ourselves momentarily.
Alright. Looks like the players are queuing up. Alright.
Alright, Phenomenon has brought out Shaman versus Agent Q52's Warrior. Interesting, very interesting.
Alright. So, looks like it's going to be a Patient Warrior from Agent Q's side versus Phenomenon's Aggro Shaman. So kind of an awkward hand for Phenomenon. He actually chooses to keep all of it except the second Leper Gnome.
Mm-hmm. Interesting choice there. This matchup, I think it can go either way depending on the start from the Shaman. And I mean, there it is, the Tunnel Trog. That is the card you were looking for sure in this matchup. And Agent Q52 does not have a Fiery War Axe. He does have Unstable Ghoul, which is, that's alright. You know, it deals with it eventually.
Right.
So
Phenomenon doesn't have a way to clear this, but he can go for the Coin Feral Spirit, which looks like he's going to go for that right now. So this will buff his Tunnel Trog up to 3 attack, but he's going to have to damage his Feral Spirits in the process.
Yeah, but keeping that Tunnel Trog alive, it's really good, but this seems like an okay spot for Whirlwind. You do want to get the Acolyte of Pain in play. Either Whirlwind or Execute, I guess, and you can follow one of those up with Slam. This play can pay off more over the next couple of turns because your Acolyte can deal a point of damage to the Feral Wolves optimistically, like it deals 1 damage to both.
Right.
We might see Phenomenon just trade off the Tunnel Trog here to play around Whirlwind. If
Right.
he doesn't, he could get punished pretty hard.
Exactly. I think you do have to trade at this point because again, Whirlwind would devastate you here. He could clear off if Agent Q decides to Whirlwind next turn. He clears up everything except one of the Feral Spirits.
Yeah, and that would be a really big deal. 2 cards would also get drawn off the Acolyte of Pain, so
Right.
I mean it's 3 damage versus all of the scary things that happen if your opponent has Whirlwind. I mean,
Right.
There's no guarantee that your opponent has Whirlwind, but if they do, man, it's gonna sting, you know. Like,
So he does
Okay.
decide to go for the trade there.
Yeah, I would say that's a very disciplined play from Phenomenon. I think a lot of people would have just been like, you know what, let's go face. He doesn't have it, right?
Right.
No way he has it, but it definitely makes the right call at that point in time. And Agent Q52 is left with an awkward turn. Like, Dread Corsair for 4 is not what you want to be doing against an aggro deck.
Right, so it looks like Agent Q is going to go for the Slam Execute here, leaving just the Leper Gnome. He can also decide to enrage the Leper Gnome if he's really scared of damage, but he's sitting at a healthy life total of 26 for now, so kind of sees that it's not necessary. So Phenomenon's going to play out the abusive right now, and oh, he even rolls a Searing Totem, which is going to give Agent Q a really good Whirlwind turn.
Yeah, I mean, you could get really greedy and save it for the Grim Patron next turn. Like, that's the
Right.
dream, but how greedy can you be against this Shaman deck that can deal like a billion damage in one turn? So
Right.
we're gonna see discipline from both players here, as we saw Phenomenon with that trade earlier, and Agent Q with his Whirlwind now. I like it, I like it. Throws out the 3/3 for 4, Mr. Dread Corsair. Not exactly in his prime right now. Usually you like to make him cheaper with a weapon, but unfortunately Agent Q52 did not have that option, and a Doomhammer comes into play. Sir Finley Murgleton drawn. That's going to be nice to cash in his hero power for something that does damage, you know? Like, who wants to make totems when you can just get like the Hunter hero power and 2 damage to face every turn?
Right. Against Warrior, I definitely think that's probably the one you're going to be taking, especially because you know that the Warrior is going to be armoring every turn, probably from from this point on.
Hmm.
Okay, so it looks like Phenomenon's going to go for the Ancestral Knowledge.
Yeah, I like starting the turn off with that. Maybe you draw some other 1-drop you would prefer to play. Of course, after playing the Tunnel Trog to get the buff, so
Alright.
that works out decently. And what does Sir Finley discover?
Oh, so we've got Steady Shot and we've got Shapeshift. He decides to go for the Shapeshift because of the synergy with the Doomhammer.
Yep. Yep, I can get behind that choice. I mean, the Hunter hero power, it's really nice. I think it pays off better the longer the game goes. The Druid hero power pays off better like immediately. You do have a second Doomhammer in hand, so like you've got that going for you. But that's a lot of mana investment.
Right. Essentially, if you're going face with the hero power, then it doesn't really matter. It's the same as a Hunter's
Yeah.
Mark, right? No, the Hunter hero power, except that you're gaining armor as well. So I do think that was actually the right option.
Hmm. Like, assuming you do play Doomhammer at some point, I mean the second Doomhammer at some point in this game, which, like, this game is probably going to be pretty short anyway, so I agree. Yeah, just getting that extra point of health whenever you use your hero power could help out a lot in what seems like is going to be a race here now. A Lotheb in Agent Q52's hand is going to be vital to winning this game, I think, because 2 Lava Bursts and a Crackle. I think that's what Phenomenon is going to want to play next turn. Yeah, he's setting up for lethal, but this Lotheb is gonna have something to say about that.
Right. So he does decide to clear one of the patrons as well as the armor smith. So he's missing out on a little face damage there, but I guess he's playing around Agent having another whirlwind effect.
Yeah. Yeah, throwing out the Lava Burst now also makes sense. You don't really have much else to do. I think it's a more efficient use of your mana overall, assuming you do kill Agent Q52 here, but this Lotheb is so good right now. I think,
Right. I think this Lotheb is gonna be sealing up the game for Agent Q.
yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Wow. It's actually really close. Oh man.
Wow. And so the Lotheb actually just saved Agent Q right here.
Yeah, the Rock
Um,
Fighter weapon especially, like, wow, that was so much damage
Right.
available there for Phenomenon, but
It was definitely lethal from Phenomenon's side, had Agent Q not had the Lotheb that turn.
exactly, wow, what a game. I mean, man, like the Shaman had a pretty good start. He made the proper play with that trade, I think, going into that Acolyte. And then again, I mean, Agent Q52 also made some good plays himself, some disciplined plays. So
All right.
pretty good game there. And it definitely could have gone either way, depending on how those last couple of draws went, I think. So.
All right.
All right, so that's going to be a 2-1 lead now for RMU. We could close out the series here with this next game. We'll get the players set up and ready to go momentarily.
All right. So next up we have Soren from University of Iowa, and we have Purple Cat from RMU. Let's see. The players are readying up right now.
Just deciding on what decks to play, I assume. Once again, Iowa has already played their Warrior, Paladin, and Shaman, so they have the other 6 classes to choose from. RMU has played their Warlock, Mage, and their Warrior, so they have their other 6 classes. Both schools have played Warrior so far, and the rest just one of each. I think maybe it's time to pull out the Druid to close out the series. You know, for RMU, it's like what bad matchups are you worried about as a Druid player? There's certainly a few.
Tempo Mage, Zoo, Aggro Shaman are all like kind of bad for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, as many like bad matchups as Druid has, Druid is also very strong against many other classes.
Right. All right, so it's going to be Soren playing Druid versus Purple Cat playing Paladin.
All right.
I think this is something that Purple Cat is happy about. I think the Secret Paladin deck does really well against Druid. Now, it is Druid, so it can, steal a game from nowhere. But
Alright.
yeah, I think in general, Purple Cat's happy with this matchup.
So Soren's hand is actually really good for the Secret Paladin matchup right now. He has a Darnassus into potentially Swiper Strutter. He even has an Innervate if he happens to pick up, let's say, a Keeper of the Grove, which could help him deal with Purple Cat's early aggression really well.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think Soren's going to keep all of this. Yeah, and he does.
I agree. I like that start as well. Ooh, a Loatheb. I mean, it's actually not that amazing. It's good, but if you play it really early on, it's only like it's a 5/5, but a 5/5 is a 5/5, I guess.
Alright. So it looks like he's gonna go for the coin Darnassus here. So against Paladin, Darnassus is actually a great card, right? So a lot of people have actually been cutting Darnassus from their Druid list lately because the fact is that if it dies on turn 2, then essentially it's just a vanilla 2/3, right? There's not much value in it. But Paladin actually just can't deal with it on turn 2.
Yeah, it's if the Druid has the coin, then yeah, it is impossible for Paladin to deal with on turn 2, I believe. I mean, given all the cards that Paladin does play, I'm not considering cards that are just like random out there that can deal with it. But yeah, the Secret Paladin, I guess Secret Keeper on turn 1 into 2 Secrets on turn 2, but that rarely happens. And if that does happen, I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. But
All right.
Innervate into Loatheb is going to be the play now for Soren.
So the question for Soren is, does he trade here? But because he does play Loatheb this turn, there's no chance that Purple Cat can muster.
Yep. I mean, it is kind of a tough call. A Coghammer could come into play, and that could punish Soren really badly for not trading.
Right.
Because he'd be able to deal with the Loatheb, keep the Knife Juggler in play. I mean, Purple Cat would take 5 damage, but yeah, it does opt to trade. I mean, it's not like you're trying to be super aggressive as the Druid player in this situation. You would like to be optimally, like just be aggressive and then kill your opponent quickly with burst damage, but
Right.
that doesn't happen very often in this matchup, I think.
So not a lot for Soren to do here, except for pop the bubble on this mini bot. He can decide to go face if he wants. He's actually going to go for the trade there. I think it makes sense because you know that Purple Cat likely has kings in his hand, and it'll make it harder for you to deal with later on.
Yeah.
This way, though, it does leave the Loatheb a little bit weaker to being removed by True Silver. But Purple Cat's got a lot of options this turn, right?
Yeah,
So he's
I
just
mean,
gonna
he
go
had
for the Shredder.
both answers. Whichever way Soren went, it could turn out poorly for him. I
Right.
mean, putting 5 damage on face, I think, does make enough sense. So either play there, I think, was fine by Soren going face or trading. Looks like he's gonna throw down his own piloted Shredder. Playing Keeper and trading doesn't look that great. I mean, sure you deal with your opponent's Shredder completely, but as a Druid, you wanna keep yourself ahead and make your opponent trade, and
Right.
that way you can apply damage to their face and stuff like that.
Right. I think in this matchup, it's very important that, as from the Druid perspective, that you are dealing damage every turn because eventually you're not going to be able to remove all of their minions, and you need to be able to finish them off from that point.
Yeah. Yeah, Paladin, even a Paladin deck like this with all the secrets does have a pretty strong late game. Ooh, Argent Watchman, not really what you want to see. I mean, I guess it's not awful. Like maybe you'll get to attack with it at some point. But I see Purple Cat mousing over it here.
Yeah.
He's like, what does this card even do? Like,
Not the one you want to see. But again, this is going to be kind of an awkward turn for Soren. He had a really good start, but since he lost the Aspirin, it seems like he hasn't been able to have a really clean turn so far. So like playing the Drake here seems fine,
mhm.
but
You don't want to be reduced to swipe. I mean, you could swipe, but then you're kind of putting yourself on the back foot.
right.
Uh,
So the thing is, Purple Cat is going to be coming in with the turn 6 challenger, right?
yeah.
So he has an option for whether he wants to try and clear Soren's minions or not. If he doesn't clear the Drake, then Soren can get a pretty decent swipe in next turn.
Yeah, I actually liked True Silver kill the Drake, and then you can hero power and kill the Shredder with your Sludge Belcher, and then use Argent Watchman to kill whatever comes out of it. I mean, unless it has more than 2 health, but
Right.
I would have liked to see that there. Um, Mysterious Challenger is great. I mean, this definitely could pay off, but ooh,
Oh,
BGH
BGH
could
off the
punish it.
top. All right, so now the thing is that Soren also needs to land the 1 in 3 Avenge onto the challenger before he can BGH it.
Yeah, he could narrow down the odds a little bit, but if he does swipe, it's gonna be a whole other turn before he gets to BGH. So, yeah, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, because he attacks the Noble Sacrifice. He really wants this Avenge to go on the Mysterious Challenger.
Oh, and it hits the Argent Watchman, unfortunately.
I mean that's second best, right? It's-
Right.
it, you have to use your hero power for it to even be able to do anything. So,
Right.
but man, that would have been beautiful if it went on the Mysterious Challenger.
Right. With this spell damage buffed swipe though, Soren is going to be able to clear off the challenger as well.
Yep. And now this is gonna be a very, very weak.
Oh, and he gets the Nerubian egg off the shredder. Not exactly what he wants to see in his hand right now.
Yeah,
Especially because he
could-
doesn't have Savage Roar.
Yeah, he could keeper his own egg and get a 4/4 at
Right.
some point, but I doubt you want to do that. Pretty weak competitive spirit, not the way that you want that to go down onto this very large Argent Watchman. But I don't know that he's going to be attacking anytime soon. Maybe just watching for a little bit longer. True Silver Champion getting played now. I think Noble Sacrifice Knife Juggler makes plenty of sense here. You could also just make a 1/1 and attack for 6, as well as play the Noble Sacrifice.
Right.
I think both are pretty reasonable options. Yeah, I like attacking for 6. It's aggressive. You got this 6/5. You might as well use it.
Right. And the funny thing is, if Soren decides to silence the Argent Watchman, it makes it so that it can attack without without needing to hero power.
Yeah, I mean it's a 2/4, but it can still attack whenever it wants. Yeah. So Savage Roar drawn. The combo is available for Soren. He's only on 7 mana at the moment, but if he can survive to that point in the game, I think there's a very good chance he wins.
Right. So Soren can go for the Keeper this turn to silence the Argent Watchman. He could also use Savage Roar to proc his egg right now if that's what he decides to do. It puts a 4/4 on the board. Purple Cat does have the True Silver though, so it's likely going to be cleared right away.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so looks like he's gonna. Okay, this is kind of interesting. I think I actually would have done it the other way around, so I could crack the egg on the Noble Sack. Because now Soren doesn't really have a good way to crack the egg, right? I mean, he could run into the 2/4. That's fine. It still makes it a little bit awkward for Purple Cat to trade in with it.
I think it works out either way.
Yeah.
Ooh, another Mysterious Challenger, man.
Second
The
Mysterious
secret-
Challenger.
Yeah, these Secret Paladin decks are getting the Mysterious Challengers, but like when you play the first one, it pulls 3 or 4 cards out of your deck, so it filters a little bit out of the way for you to draw the other one. It makes it a lot more likely. So it definitely happens a lot with this deck, but as a Druid player, I know for sure you're really sad to see that card get played. It just does so much work in these kinds of matchups.
Right. Let's see how many secrets it pulls out this time, because we already have seen quite a few, and I'm gonna expect. Yeah, I was gonna say I was expecting 2 or less, because most lists don't run 2 copies of either Competitive Spirit, which we already saw, and Redemption.
Mm-hmm. And once again, this is Purple Cat looking to take the series for his team. If he wins this game, that's gonna be a series win. Soren looking to keep his team alive in this match right now.
All right. So again, see if we can land the 1 and 3 Avenge, and he doesn't land it. Okay.
Yeah.
So unfortunately for Soren, he can't beat GH here, but he can clear off some of the minions with Force if that's what he decides to do.
Man, this BGH, he just wanted to get a beast in his sights. You know, he went out hunting. He packed all his food last night, and now there's nothing. There's nothing out here, man. Like, what a sad day. Feels bad, man.
All right. So it's awkward for Soren here. He can decide to either clear or just lure and hope. Purple Cat does have 12 damage on the board though, so he only needs 2 to kill Soren. But from Soren, it looks like he's gonna look to heal here instead. Right.
Yeah. Seems like the only option at this point. I mean, there's a
Right.
good chance the Paladin player has a lot of damage. Maybe there's other ways where you like hope they don't have that 2 damage and then you try to win from there. I mean, I don't really know how he wins this way. So maybe he should have just drawn and hoped for the best. But yeah, either way, he's just in a really tough spot. And this isn't lethal yet, is it? 10, 13, 17?
Not quite.
Yeah, maximum damage he could do would be 17 if he made his Watchman a 3/3.
Right.
Plus Blessing of Kings, but yep, just turns Ancient of Lore into a 3/3. It looks like he's gonna kill it off with Mysterious Challenger or something.
Right. So it looks like he's gonna go for the clear here on the lore. Which makes sense because if Soren happened to draw Savage Roar off the top, it would actually be lethal for him.
Yeah, and that would be terrible to just like make it this far in the game and then end up losing to the second Savage Roar. And Purple Cat wisely puts the Blessing of Kings onto the 2/2 that way. No BGH targets on the board.
And I think this is gonna be game for Purple Cat.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Soren can use his Azure Drake. Maybe he draws a Mind Control tech. No, that still isn't enough.
Yeah, it was really rough for Soren. The challengers on 6 and 8 were really strong for him. Even though the second challenger didn't only pulled one secret, it still put a 6-6 body on the board.
Yeah. Yeah, those challengers definitely did a lot of work this game. So it looks like this is going to be... Okay, Shade of Naxxramas drawn. Yeah, this is going to be Purple Cat taking the series. That is, you know, if he does all his math right. Yep, Soren concedes. That's going to be a 3-1 win for RMU over Iowa. Well played to both teams here. That is the first match of this new spring season for CSL. We hope you guys enjoyed the match. Unfortunately, that's our only one for tonight. Once again, we would like to thank Twitch for sponsoring us. Big thanks to them for featuring our matches and, you know, sponsoring. And we're proud to be affiliated with the largest gaming streaming provider in the world. We would also like to thank Asus ROG. Asus is the presenting sponsor of the CSL this year. They make some of the world's best gaming PCs, laptops, and monitors. Asus is funding this season's travel to DreamHack and our prize pool for the year. Be sure to follow their social medias, like at Asus_ROG, and thank them for sponsoring the CSL. Also some plugs for other games that'll be going on. StarCraft 2 and Hearthstone are back in action, of course. Here we are tonight with Hearthstone. You can catch SC2 on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific on C-Star League 2. While you can catch us, of course, here we are, on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific on C-Star League, this current channel. And Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific on C-Star League 2, that's the other channel. Be sure to follow that channel if you guys haven't yet. Of course, there's some CSGO going on as well. You can find all our CSGO action on Wednesdays on C-Star League 2 at 7 p.m. Pacific and Saturdays at 4 p.m. Pacific on C-Star League. And there's some League of Legends and Dota 2. The fun never stops as you can catch our MOBAs on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific on Twitch TV/C-Star League. That's this right here. If you miss any matches you want to see, be sure to check out the YouTube channel over at youtube.com/C-Star League. Under the CSGO section, you can find all broadcasted matches. And of course, there's some social media you guys should check out. There's twitter.com/CSL Hearthstone. Make sure you guys follow at CSL Hearthstone. And on Facebook, go to like Collegiate Hearthstone, facebook.com/Collegiate Hearthstone. And you can check out our website at cstarleague.com. And of course, to close out the broadcast here, I am Nomodogan at RootNomodogan on Twitter. Chandyland, are there any plugs or anything else you would like to say?
Yeah, sure. So again, I'm Chandyland. I'm HL Chandyland on Twitter. Make sure you follow CSL Hearthstone on Twitter to find out when we're playing our next matches. Again, we'll be back on Friday, and we'll see you then.
Yep, I believe that's this Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific on C-Star League 2. So we hope you all have enjoyed the broadcast. GG's to both teams that play tonight, and we'll see you guys on Friday.